Feeling stuck in your job but think it might be too late to make a change? You're not alone. In this episode of the Midlife Mud, we're getting into the burnout, the what ifs, and how to actually take those scary first steps toward a career that fits you better, no matter your age. Plus, we've got a free guide to help you map out your next move, and trust me, you're going to want to grab it. So keep it here. Hey, I'm Morgan.
I'm Chris. Welcome to the Midlife Mud,
where we promise to bring the real shit, all the grit, and pretty much zero clue about how to deal with this crazy phase of life.
And by the way, because this is all about feeling less alone, what we want most is to connect with you.
Absolutely. So take a few seconds and visit themidlifemud.com and join our community.
And you'll stay up to date on all the dirt.
And even better, become a part of the conversation.
We can't wait to see you there. All right. Tighten those boots and let's get muddy.
I saw something the other day that I thought was really interesting, and that is that more than half the people in their 50s say that they're satisfied with what they do for a living. And then I also saw that 65% of Americans age 35 to 54 report feeling burned out at work. And I'm like, how can these two things be true?
Well, if there is a multiverse, both realities could exist in parallel.
It's true. And I guess maybe, one half is the satisfied half and the other half is the burnt out half.
Wait, are we talking about quantum physics today?
I don't do math or physics or any of those things. So no.
Thank God.
As a personal coach, one of the things that people often come to me with is, I want to change jobs.
Yep.
And it's not unusual over the span of your lifetime to shift careers, whether you're staying within the same field or completely jumping ship and doing something different. It's not unusual to change jobs 4 or 5 times even over the course of your lifetime. And so really a third of people in midlife expect that they're going to change jobs or make some sort of career pivot. What's interesting is that only 60% of them have taken any steps at all to do that. So there's this total mismatch of desire versus action to get what they want.
But they can do it next year, right?
Right. They're just putting it off.
Yeah.
And so what that's telling me is just that a lot of people feel stuck when it comes to their career. How do you feel personally about your career at this stage in life?
I remember having a moment about 3 years ago where I was managing an outpatient clinic and had been doing that for about 3 years. And this particular clinic was struggling operationally with a lot of things when I came on and took leadership of it. And I had done a lot to get the operational numbers where they were supposed to be and make all these goals, and worked really hard to meet all these deadlines. And the time came for annual review. And I sat down with my boss and he gave me meets expectations. And I had gone above and beyond. I felt like I deserved more than that.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, now what? What am I supposed to do now? It was a hard spot for me to be in. And I didn't really know what it is that I could do because I felt stuck. I felt like I had invested 2 decades of time and now I wanted to do something else. What was that supposed to look like?
So was that more about feeling valued?
Yeah, there was a feeling valued thing. And then there was also, if I just change careers, what would I have to show for it? What did I accomplish?
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat, and this is no secret. We've talked about this before when we talked about my perfectionism journey and all of that. Opening a practice, being an orthodontist, all of that has been a journey in my career. I still feel like a lot of times I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And I think the thing is that if you're doing life right, you're always growing up.
Yes.
And we're living longer than we used to 100 years ago. And so it makes sense. It makes sense to me that I'm going to be consistently evolving in terms of what I'm putting out into the world in terms of my career. And now I'm in a place where I've sort of pieced together these different things that I do. I still practice orthodontics, but now I'm also a coach and I'm doing this podcast and I'm sort of piecemealing it to go with who I am and what my identity is and what feels important. And I'm a lot happier. Going back to, oh, half the people in their 50s are satisfied. What does that mean? Is that just like, oh, it's fine. It's good enough.
It means that somebody checked a box that said satisfied.
What's the difference between being satisfied and being alive?
Right.
Ironically, I think that's how people talk themselves out of making any kind of career shift is like, oh, it may seem all great over there, but I'm probably just going to be trading this problem for another one. And so I'm just going to stay where I am. We will delve into this a little bit further. But the point being right now is that it is not too late to change careers if you're in midlife. And it's also not something that's free, quote unquote, financially or otherwise. So we really want to explore that and talk about, well, what's it really going to cost if I stay where I am? What could it cost me if I jump ship? And I want to point out that we do have a free workbook that you can download. It's called Navigating Career Shifts, the Midlife Mud Map. Just go to the link in the show notes. You can exchange your email address for this guide. And it's really helpful. It's a useful tool to sit down and figure out, if I'm really serious about this, how do I get started? So check that out. But let's talk about why does this desire for a shift happen a lot of times in midlife?
Because we don't know what we're doing or what even is going to happen when we first start off in our careers, I think.
You start off in your 20s and you're like, sometimes you're just going out and getting the job that you can get.
Right.
And a lot of times I think what happens from there is you just sort of get kicked down the road.
It's really funny because in my job, I have had the privilege to just meet and interact with a ton of different people in a ton of different careers. I did a calculation once. I've seen almost like a full stadium of people over my career. And when I run across random careers like an accountant for public sewage department, I will ask people, are you passionate about that career? I commonly ask people in all kinds of jobs that, and it's fascinating to listen. A lot of people aren't really that thrilled.
And that begs the question, are we expecting too much to be passionate about what we do?
Yeah, that is, you bring up a good point. Like I purposefully kind of frame it in a provocative way. And I think back to the other idea, some people are really happy, but it's not work really that they're hanging their hat on in terms of happiness. I think there are a lot of people that I've talked to. And in fact, I just described something similar for myself where work is very important. And I actually enjoy a lot of the work that I do, but there's something outside of work that's fulfilling me. And I'm being much more intentional about finding that and exploring that than I was in the first part of my adult life.
Yeah, maybe I'm an idealist because there's a deeper part of me that wants to also really be fulfilled by the work I get paid to do. And that's not to say that my work has to be my only purpose, but I want my work to be purposeful.
What you're bringing up is the classic trap, because I'm not saying to you that I don't want to have those other things make money or bring me more financial peace, but I'm not starting off necessarily expecting that. And I think that's the hang up is we get to a certain point in life. Like, let's go back to when I got a meets expectation. Here I am, and I have a pretty good salary because I've grown it and I have the longevity over time, right? So I'm getting paid pretty well. What am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to be able to go to TJ Maxx and fold clothes,
Right.
Or just start another career where I need a lot of training and experience and make that kind of cash.
Mm-hmm.
So there had to be for me some sort of leap of faith or an acceptance, really is probably a better way to put it, where I said, all right, I'm going to put that aside. I want that. I'm asking for it in some bigger sense, but I'm also realistic that I need to just start somewhere.
Right. You're not going to quit your job as a physical therapist today and then go make a living the same way with a different career tomorrow.
That's right.
That's what I want to talk about today is what's the ideal? What are the steps? What's the process to try to attain that? But let's go back a little bit to where does this itch to switch come from? I think a lot of people feel, we've used the word stuck. They feel stagnant. Maybe they've climbed the ladder and there is now like a ceiling and they can't go any further wherever they are.
Right.
I've heard this one a ton. I want more money. That's probably the number one reason that people want to change jobs is they want more money. I'm curious always, like what's underneath that? Is it money they're wanting? What is the money going to give them?
So I've had that happen a lot. I want more money. And that's true. But then what is it that I actually really want? And I say all the time that when I get to an age that's classic retirement, I always want to be doing something. What it really comes down to is the money is a vehicle for freedom. And I always want to feel like I have a sense of purpose. What's my purpose and what do I want? What do I want to leave here? What do I want to do while I'm here? And let the rest follow versus I want a $500,000 a year salary.
That's also a big ask. That's a big ask to really start digging into, because there are layers to this desire. And I think a lot of people recognize it on the surface as, I want more money.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to go on that trip next month with my family. I want to be able to go out to dinner without counting pennies. And I think within that, there's that freedom, this desire for more autonomy. People don't want to feel tethered to their work. They don't want to feel like their work is dictating their lives. This whole dream of work-life balance, that's a big one. And I think it comes down to just having better alignment, like knowing what you want in life and doing work that's going to support that, whether just financially, to your point of like, I'm a physical therapist, but that's not like my passion work. It is subsidizing me doing these other things right now.
Yeah. And there is just such a practical piece of this. You know, at the end of the day, I had to and have to on a regular basis sit down and just look at the black and white of it.
Yep.
I need to make X amount. That's just the bottom line for me. And I need to be able to plan for my future financially. And so that takes X amount as well. And however I construct my life, I have to do that. And then to create the space to start growing and fostering something else that at some point I hope will bring in financial income. But it doesn't happen right away.
No, it's not overnight.
That can be what feels a little bit daunting. And I think that it's so easy to put ourselves in this situation where if I can't walk away today and tomorrow pick up a job that's going to pay me this, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to have to wait. And maybe you do have to wait. A lot of times there is time involved. But the point is, what are you doing during that time?
Mm-hmm. If you're literally just waiting, nothing's going to change.
Nothing's happening.
And you'll just sit there and be, quote unquote, fine in this job until you die or until you retire, right? And so ask yourself, really, do I want to do this for the next 20 years? Do I want to do this? I feel like a lot of people, again, totally anecdotal. I don't know, again, what the statistics are. I guess half people are like, it's fine. Is it really fine? Is that really what you want to do? And I get it. I get it that it's scary to consider making that kind of a change, taking that leap. It is totally normal to be scared of that. How am I going to walk away? I got to make this amount of money. What's interesting is there is a statistic that says, and this is from 2014, a survey of Americans who switched careers after age 45 showed that 82% considered their move a success. 82%. That's really high.
It's high, but I'm not surprised at all.
And a lot of them actually saw increases in pay. And 56% of them said they were very happy. So maybe the grass really is fucking greener. A 2017 study said that about 2/3 of people who changed careers in midlife said that their stress dropped. And nearly 3/4 of them felt like a completely new person. That is not just better. That is a transformation.
Yeah.
And I think especially in our culture where what we do often defines who we are and how we show up in life.
Well, we wrap a lot around it, but the point is, do we have to?
We don't have to, but we do. And because we do, if you're going to do that, I'm going to argue that you should love what you do. I'm going to argue that you should feel alive when you get home from work instead of like your soul has been sucked out of your body. I'll tell you a story about a client that came to me. She's no longer a client. We've completed. But she came to me wanting to make a job change. And all of our conversations revolved around how much she hated her current job. That's all we ever did was talk about how much she hated her current job. And we never, even with the push to, let's think about what you actually do want. There was such perseveration on, I am in the middle of stuff I don't want. There was almost a fixation with it. And she never even took the first step to change jobs. So I would say, let's really explore that. What is holding you back? Are you in love with complaining? Are you in love with comfortable misery? Sometimes what you know, even however miserable it is, feels comfortable. It is so much better than the unknown. We talked about this in the confidence episode. Being okay with the unknown. That's a big factor in having the confidence to do something scary.
And I think it goes back to letting go of this polar way of looking at things. Take now, for example, I work full time and then I am doing other things such as this podcast and learning more about coaching. Those are things that I'm doing on my own time with my own resources. I didn't have to go all in. It wasn't a black or white.
Yeah.
I'm still doing that. And by the way, I made a career shift, but I didn't leave my profession. Isn't that interesting?
Right. There are multiple ways to consider.
Right. Even though I'm working in the field that I was professionally trained, but I'm not on the professional track that I once was on, the job feels entirely different to me. And I'm able to approach that job in a way that I feel lighter. And it is a totally different experience for me. So that's my current solution. And it's not black or white. And I haven't just walked into some other world. And that's okay. But I'm kind of moving in a different direction.
The point is you're moving.
Yeah.
That's the point. There is no stagnation.
Right.
I've got a client, very similar situation. She's got her day job, which she would probably define as soul-sucking. But she has pursued this other side career and she's killing it over there. And she loves it. And her intention is to sort of shift into that over time and let go of the other job. It isn't an overnight thing, but it's reassuring to her, I think, and I can see it in her, to be moving, to be making progress in something that actually matters to her and that she loves.
Yeah.
The other things to consider in this day and age, there's also sort of this fear of AI. So let's touch on that for just a minute, because there's the fear of it taking over jobs and pushing people out of jobs, which in some cases may happen. But AI can actually work to our benefit too. And I think it's about harnessing it. And when we think about career pivots, how can we use AI to our benefit? You can use AI for a lot of things. You can use AI to apply for jobs, to brush up your interview skills, to consider career paths. This is what I love to do, and these are my credentials. What would you do with this? Just exploring opportunities, building a resume. That in today's age, if you have been working in the same job for a long time, maybe that's rusty for you. And so using AI to help you build that resume can be hugely helpful. Let's use it as a tool.
Right.
Don't underestimate the value of micro credentials. This whole idea of getting a college degree is going to help you get a job. It still matters, but it's not everything. Consider getting trained, doing a certification in something that interests you. Think of your abilities as this sort of toolbox. And however much you can put into that toolbox to do the kind of job that you want to do and have the kind of impact that you want to have is incredibly valuable. So these little side trainings that you can take some time to do, you could take a weekend to do, maybe it's a 3-month course that you're doing on the side. Those are all things that can push you in the direction of, I can do something different, or I can add this to my repertoire. That kind of leads into this whole idea of portfolio careers, kind of like what I was talking to you about for me. I have this sort of patchwork career now where I'm doing a lot of different little things, and yet all of them require the skills that I have been learning recently in these micro credentials, and
Right.
they all talk to each other in some way.
Yeah. So it's a less traditional way of looking at educating yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's becoming more and more common. So don't discount it.
What's interesting is even in the mainstream educational institutions, it's becoming more common. You're starting to see these kind of micro certifications and credentials offered from big colleges. I think that is the world that we live in, is having kind of a deeper, broader tool set is really helpful in navigating shifts.
Yeah.
And part of what we're talking about is growing resilience around navigating shift in your career and life.
Yeah. Because shift happens.
You had to say it. I set you up. I threw the ball up there and you dunked it. Good job. We're also talking about the relationship between what we're calling career and just living. And I think for me, what's happened is I used to hold those two things apart, my personal self and life and my career.
Yeah.
But now the two are getting more entangled, which I like. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about briefly the cost of staying. If you're in a job that you don't like, or that is not like bringing you aliveness, what's the, like, take stock of that. What does that really mean? What's the cost of staying versus leaving? You know, there's the emotional drain of doing something that you hate or that's not bringing you life, you know, on a daily basis. How often, like really, on average, how much of our lives do we spend working?
Well, that's where I was going with this, is we just spend so much of our life to be unhappy during that.
Yeah. Energy. Like if you are running yourself into the ground, burning yourself out, what does that leave for the rest of your personal life? And then financially, you know, what are you actually, maybe you're actually capable of a lot more that could bring you a lot more financial security. You don't know.
Right.
So I think that's step one, is really sitting down and getting honest about what is this really costing me in all the ways to stay in this? Do I want to consider making a shift? And then what? What do you do next? You know, what are the things that you want to consider, practically speaking?
Well, you have to, back to what I was saying before about the bottom line. You know, there is a threshold that most of us need monetarily in order to just live our lives. So that has to be met. And then the way that I look at this is I have to create some space for me to do something different and to start to take on these different skills and practice doing something different. And so I've had to kind of weave that into my life somehow, my daily schedule. There's a practicality to this.
Yeah, because a lot of us don't have this extra time built in to even sit down and think about this crap.
Here's the thing that's the real kicker, like getting started, is you're going to spend this extra time and then there's no clear result right away. It's sort of like when you're in that phase of strength training and you're like 6 weeks in.
Where is the muscle?
Yeah. And you're like, well, I've been working really hard. I could show you on my app how many hours I've spent.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you've done nothing. It just hasn't sprouted yet.
Some of the fat has to melt off first.
Right.
So you got to keep going.
Right.
So I think sitting down to get really concrete here, making the time. Again, look at this little workbook that we've created. Sit down and take the time to actually think this through a little bit and put it down on paper. What does your path to change look like potentially? Is it literally leaving and going to a brand new job next week? Maybe. Is it seeking out some certifications or side trainings that are going to support you in your current job, but also expand your possibility for other jobs? Is it some sort of lateral leap to a different company because maybe the people there are better or the pay is a little bit better? Is it taking a freaking break, a sabbatical from your current job to write that book or to think about, what do I really want to do? Some people have that luxury. Is it a side hustle that you could start tomorrow in addition to what you're already doing? There are so many paths that you could take And having the openness and the creativity and the guidance to do it is critical.
Yeah.
And then, making a contingency plan. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way that you want. So consider that. Okay, worst case scenario. If I do whatever I've decided on doing, if I do that and it goes sideways, what am I going to do? Think about that now. Make a contingency plan. You're a lot more likely to jump if you've got a net than if you just are like, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to fall on the cement.
Right. Well, and there is a bit of an explorative nature of this.
Yeah.
You don't know the outcome, and that's okay. And, maybe the first iteration of things leads to something you didn't think of initially.
The point is taking the step, however messy that looks, however uncertain you might be, you've thought it through. Use your resources. Again, use AI, hire a career coach. Like if you really aren't sure what's out there or what you need to do, there are resources available to you to explore that.
The other thing you didn't mention in all of those options is the idea that maybe you just go what would appear to be backwards a little bit in your career and take a job that is smaller, that will open up bandwidth for you to do other things.
Yeah. What will that afford you? More time,
right?
Energy. Yeah.
Time is so valuable.
And I think that speaks to the importance of crunching some numbers, like literally getting in the weeds about, okay, what do I absolutely have to have? And what can I sacrifice in order to have more time or energy to explore what it is that I really want to do? I also think that anytime you can, developing your own interpersonal skills is so valuable because I feel like we're so lacking. We just had this whole episode on communication last time. That's one little piece of it, honing your judgment, increasing your emotional IQ, really getting in touch with your creativity and developing leadership skills. All of those things can serve you to advance in some way in your career. And that is never going to be something that AI can do and take over. So the more we can put our eggs in that basket, I think the better for us.
I think that's true. I mean, the whole discussion about AI, the bottom line with AI is it's not going to go anywhere. So we just have to learn how to coexist with it. And to some degree, not just with AI, but in general, if I sit and just make up a lot of reasons why I can't do something today, then the bottom line is I'm going to do that tomorrow and the next day. And the next day.
So do you want to do that for the next 20 years? Ask yourself that. There's something a little exciting about mixing it up. And so maybe if you can connect with that feeling of, well, what if? We are giving you permission to do that. You have to give yourself permission to do that. And that's actually one of my favorite things in this workbook is you're going to write out a permission slip to yourself. The difference here compared to when we were in our 20s, we're sort of done kicking the can down the road.
Right.
We know ourselves a little bit better. We've had some more experience. So we have something else to bring to this exploration.
Right. Well, to the point of the statistic, around 82% of people that make a career shift after the age of, I forget what you said, 45.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I think, because they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And they know more about who they are.
Right.
So let's take that by the balls and do something with it. So micronutrients.
A lot more is possible than what it seems like when you're stuck in that moment where you have been working your ass off and you meets expectations.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there's real value in being honest with yourself. Take the fear out of it and say, really honestly, what do I want here? And why do I want those things? What's underneath that desire? And then ultimately, you're going to end up at some core value of yours. And you can ask yourself, am I living in alignment with that in this job right now? And if the answer is no, it's time to do something about that.
Right. And whatever something is, those steps don't have to be radical.
In fact, most often they won't be. But they're steps. Instead of sitting still, you're actually moving forward.
Those steps may not feel like they're producing much at first. And that's okay too.
And I'm going to throw out there that they might not feel comfortable. And that's also okay. So we're inviting you to take that first uncomfortable step check out this workbook, go through it and ask yourself some real questions that matter and that can help you decide if there's a decision to be made.
Yeah, it's a fun process. It can be.
Yeah, it's all about how you go into it. What energy do you want to bring into it?
Yeah.
So, with that said, don't forget to reach out to us at themidlifemud.com.
Join our community. Hit the big red button to leave us a message.
Yeah, tell us where you are in your career journey. Are you happy, satisfied? Are you alive?
Are you taking the steps?
We want to know.
Are you one of the 82%?
Tell us some success stories that might help other people. Okay, well, we'll see you next time.
In the mud. Thanks for being with us in the mud today.
If you liked this episode, do us a huge favor and subscribe to the show. This is going to make sure you never miss an episode, and it's going to help us grow our muddy community, which would mean the world to us.
See you next time in the mud.